Good afternoon, y'all. Welcome to Book World: The Great Escape. I'm CJ Peterson, a co-host with author Michael Scott Clifton. Today we have joining us Ms. Patty Wiseman, and we'll be talking about, what choice you're going to make, either a multi-genre or a single genre author. You're going to choose to stay in your lane or spread your wings. But before we get there, uh, welcome, Patty. And how was y'all's weekend?
Thank you for having me. And I, we had a quiet weekend, but it was a beautiful weekend. The weather was nice after that initial storm, but it was quiet.
That's always
And
good.
Yeah, I need that.
well, we attended the Dalton Days in downtown Longview,
Hmm.
and I think this is the second year we've done that, and it was uh, had a sold a lot of books and was very successful. A lot of people. My wife's cousins were and her sister were able to come down, and so it's an outdoor event. So we had a pavilion, so they were able to sit in the back, and talk and visit. And then we went, after the event was over, we went out to eat and stuff. So it's nice catching up with family and also, like I said, believe it or not, the westerns, and of course I do sci-fi fantasy, but it still sold a lot of books. So it was a hoot. It was very successful.
Awesome, Miss Patty.
Sounds like fun. I
What
mean,
did
I
you
meant,
do?
what did I do?
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything this weekend?
No,
Yeah.
we didn't go anywhere. 2 years of health problems, and I take it kind of slow nowadays. But we're going to be doing art walk in Longview,
Right.
Texas
Right.
tomorrow night, so
Tomorrow
I'm
night.
excited to be back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Mike will be there too.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, we stay in this Vera Bank lobby. So if you're in downtown Longview tomorrow, it's 5 to 8, and
yeah,
we're in the lobby. So
and they
next
have food.
next to the
I
wine
know.
Food
sample.
and
So
wine and books.
yeah.
How you
So
cannot beat
yeah,
that.
yeah, come get some wine.
You can't beat that.
That's right.
Uh-uh. Awesome. Well, I went to SciFiCon this weekend. I went under the the Con Hour, the other podcast I'm a part of, and got to do interviews. And I had like a full fangirl geek moment where I got to interview Tim Russ, who is part of, he was on Star Trek Voyager, and I also got to interview Patricia Tallman, who was on Babylon 5, as well as a Klingon on Star Trek. And then other ones I got to interview were like John Swayze. There were multiple voice actors, Danny Chambers, Rico Fajardo. If he's watching, yes, I pronounced it correctly that time. Uh, so it was fun, and I super enjoyed it. And I love doing that sort of thing. But meeting, I got to meet two other authors. I was pretty excited to meet them because I haven't met him yet before. Because we generally stay within Texas, so this is my first chance out of the state to go to a different Comic Con, and it was super fun.
Oh,
That's
So
cool. You haven't gone to Shreveport's Comic Con with
no, I
Mike?
haven't. Nope,
I
nope,
hear
not
that's a
yet.
pretty big one. Yeah.
I
Geek
know.
GeekCon. Yeah, I go there with uh, Lisa Simmons writes CI chevrons. We interviewed her a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
On
yeah.
steampunk.
So
Yep.
and anyway, that's a lot of con. The thing about these cons is that distance um because of gas has a lot to do with whether it can be a profitable exercise for an author. And it's funny because Texas is so big; it's closer to go to cons in Arkansas,
Hmm.
Louisiana, and even Mississippi than it is half the state of Texas. So
Yeah, as
yeah.
people don't understand just the massive size of
Oh
Texas,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
makes like a huge difference. Like it
Yeah.
took us 2 hours, I think, to get to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and it took us about a month and a half ago to go to San Angelo, Texas, 7 hours. And so it's like it depends on where you are too.
Now Brett Mitchell is going to have the Tyler Comic Con again this year.
Hmm.
He still hasn't nailed down a date, but it probably, I think, be sometime in October or November. So that's if you're in East Texas, that's probably the closest con you're going to come to.
I
Awesome.
haven't been to that one in years. Are there still a lot of authors that go to that?
Well, CJ and I were there last year, and Danielle McDonough, is that how you pronounce her name?
Mhm.
Okay, she was there as well. So there are three of us. Normally it has
That
it in the Harvey Convention Center, but that was
yeah,
torn down, and I think the holdup this year is that Brett's waiting to see if it's actually going to be available. Uh, Otherwise,
the
he may
new
have it at the same place.
Okay,
there's
good.
a new building.
Yeah, they tore the old one down and they're
Yeah,
rebuilding it at the same location, and that's where it used to be held. But he had moved it to what was the name of that place, CJ, that he had it at? Do you remember?
I don't.
It's
I know it was a
it's
country club.
yeah, but I mean the facility was not bad. You know, of course, it's not as big as the Harvey Center, but anyway, um,
Are they
if we
still doing
find out,
renovations on that?
he said he may end up having to have it there again because Harvey may still be. Uh, I don't know if it's not available or if they're still doing, because of the booking that they do, or if they're still, in renovation.
Mhm. Gotcha. Well, I'm excited about our topic. I am a multi-genre author, so obviously I know which one I'm for. So, Miss Patty Wiseman, can you tell people who are listening, first of all, the difference between the multi-genre and single-genre author? I mean, there's the obvious, but for those who may not know.
well, the what people say is to stay in your lane, and I'm kind of rebellious in that idea.
Mhm.
I like to write in different genres, which there's historical, there's contemporary, there's fantasy, there's erotica, there's romance, there's all different kinds of things. And the people that make the rules, whoever they may be, say you're supposed to stay in your own lane to be successful. And I'm just like I said, rebellious. I like a challenge,
Mhm.
and my first um, few books was a series, a historical 1920s series.
Mhm.
And after the fourth book, I kind of got, eh, you know, I want to do something else. And so I wrote a contemporary,
Mhm.
which was really different for me because I do a lot of research and I go, for my historical books, I go back and I research and make sure that I have everything correct as far as the timeline, the
Mhm.
time period goes. And so contemporary was a whole different thing for me. And but it was highly successful. I sold a bunch of books, still sell them, and that was called That One Moment, and it was contemporary. Well, then I was where novellas were being popular, and
Mhm.
if you know what a novella is, it's you can't go past 40,000 words in a novella. And I thought, because mine are like 65,000, 70,000 words, my books. And I thought, can I do that? And talk about a challenge. Um, that was somewhere between, and it's a ghost story, and it's not a
Mhm.
romantic book, but there is a little bit of that in there, but it wasn't written for that purpose. It was written as a mystery, which is
Mhm.
out of my lane again, and highly successful with that one. And, it just, I think it depends on what your goals are as a writer.
Mhm.
Do you want to make money? Do you want to challenge yourself? Um, what is it you want to do with your writing? I like to write for escapism, for
Mhm.
somebody to pick it up and lose themselves in my
Right.
story. And I was actually listening to a conference this morning, and the presenter was saying, "Oh, you've got to stay in your lane. You've got to, because you confuse your readers." And The only consistency in my books are they're clean.
Mhm.
They're flinch free. There's no um, sexual contact. There's no blood and guts. Now that might sound boring, but it's very challenging to write a book without using that as a crutch, so to
Mhm.
speak. Nothing wrong with people that want to read that kind of book.
Mhm.
I have no problem with that. But for me, it's a challenge, you know.
For me, when I first started writing, I write Christian fiction, but tell people it's not your mama's Christian fiction. And doing a speaking engagement, I realized that actually my books have a little bit of a sci-fi fantasy lean to them too that I didn't realize. I knew that they had the supernatural lean toward them, but I never actually thought about classifying them there. But I'm also a children's author.
I
But
am too.
when I first started writing, I had a friend who was writing primarily romance, and she's like, "I kind of want to go into paranormal like you do." She's like, "But, do I need to write a new pen name?" And I said, "Well, why would you?" And she says, "Well, it's because it's a different genre." And I said, "So, in other words, people have to pigeonhole authors into one specific genre, but they'll allow actors to go across the board?" I said, "What's the difference? It's a different challenge."
I was thinking about that the other when all this with the Oscars came up,
Mhm.
and I thought, these actors don't play the same repetitive role
Mhm.
all the time. Why do authors have to stay in one lane?
Yeah.
And the pros of writing multi-genre is it's fun for one
Mhm.
thing to look over here and say, oh, I want to try that.
Mhm.
And I think if you create a following immediately, and I've been doing this since 2011, and I have a really good fan base built.
Mhm.
And uh, you know, if you write well and you engage your audience, I don't think they care what
Mm.
your name or your pen name or whatever. Besides that, one of the cons is the double the work or triple the work, if in my case, because I'm a children's author too.
Mhm.
And I just write under one name. And
Now, there is an exception to that rule. Is if you're going like from erotica
yes,
to certain genres that
yes,
it really clashes with.
yes,
No, at
yes,
that point, then yes, I would suggest a pen name.
yes. You can't write erotica and then Amish.
Mm.
You
or,
just you can't do
or
it. You
that's
can't
not
do
going
it.
to work.
No.
Yeah,
But
Well, that
otherwise, you have
I
to like
agree.
completely rebuild your entire audience again,
Yeah,
and
you
that's
do on social
painful.
media, on websites, for example. And, it's just a really difficult for me type of thing to have to recreate myself every time I change genre.
Well, and then
And
you got to remember who you are and which part you're in. So
and some
so
people can do that. Uh,
exactly, Mike. What about you?
well, I'm got a pros and cons sort of thing. So real quickly on the pros is one of the benefits of being an independent author is that you have the flexibility, I believe, to write in different genres.
Mhm.
Whereas if you are a mainstream author like John Grisham, you're expected to write legal thrillers. And if you try to write outside of that, then people really aren't that interested.
Mhm.
And and with Stephen King, if it doesn't have scary terror in it, then and he tries, and he wrote a children's book. Don't know how
I don't know
successful
that I'd go
that
for a
would be.
children's book
Yeah,
written by Stephen King.
you're right.
I'm not
But
sure I would look at
no,
that. No.
but I do think that a good story, regardless of genre and regardless of who writes it, and we've talked about this before, CJ, on different broadcasts, but a good story is the number one thing in
Mhm.
any kind of genre. And if you have a good story, it's worth writing. Now, I will say, like in my particular case, I primarily write science fiction and fantasy. I include elements of mystery and, romance and things like that in it. But when you brand yourself with a, if you're when you brand yourself, which is a good thing,
Mhm.
that you write in a certain genre, and you do have a following, more or less the people that read your books
Hmm.
expect you to try to write in that same vein. Um, but again, I don't think, like with independent authors, I don't think it's such a, what's the word, that you don't have to be so dogmatic that you expect that you have to do it that way all the time, because I do think you have the flexibility, you know, to sell your book. And of course, we go to book events and things like that.
Mhm.
And you're giving your 30-second elevator pitch and you're throwing out, well, here's a book I wrote that's about this. And if it's interesting and it catches people's attention, I don't think they really care whether it's uh, in a particular genre or not. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know that you have to, like what Patty was saying, I don't know that staying in your lane is necessarily a hard and fast rule, but it does depend on your goals as a writer, I would think
Yeah,
too. Um,
absolutely.
Mhm.
And, for me, it's personal, it's a challenging thing.
Mhm.
You know, if I sell the book, great. I'm excited about that. If I don't, if it doesn't go, then I've I've accomplished a personal goal. I
Mhm.
challenged myself to do that. And to me, that's satisfying, whether it's a hit or not a hit.
Mhm.
But, and like I said, the consistency with using my name for all my genres is they're clean. And so my audience knows from the get go that they're not going to be exposed to something that's not in their
And
interest.
that goes with the branding. Like for mine, it's while the stories are
Exactly.
fiction, the journey is real. So mine is always about the journey, regardless if it's my what I call big people books or my little people books. It's
Yes,
even the little people books is about the journey. It's adventures in Chief and Sarge and their journeys in travel. So
exactly.
as long as you're sticking within your brand, you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to stick with a specific genre. Like I don't write historical fiction, but I'm currently writing a book on time travel. And so I'm challenging myself to do so because I'm like, I could write this, but I'm curious to know if I could write a time travel book. And it's fun. It's unique. Janie, who's watching, says, for me, when I get to know an author in the books, I will follow that author. And a lot of times, it's the author's style that you're looking for,
See
not
that,
Exactly.
yeah.
necessarily the genre.
And
Exactly.
that was what I was going to say is because it is a challenge. Patty was saying if you're moving outside of what you normally write, but I
Hmm.
think that your style, I
Mhm.
mean, readers either appreciate if they're following you, if they buy your books, if they're emailing you and saying, "Hey," or texting you or messaging you and saying, "When's your next book out?" It's
Hmm.
obvious that they like your style,
Yeah,
and whatever you write probably well, it'll be in the same style, even though it may not necessarily be the same exact book as the previous ones. So,
Mhm.
what you said was very true, Patty, because style, what people expect of the author, what they've
mhm.
come to, why they're following you, has well is the most important thing. And you could write in the same genre from now until until you die. And if you're not, if people don't like your style, it doesn't matter what genre
Doesn't
you're going to
matter.
write.
Well, plus,
Exactly.
I mean, if you're kind of locked into one different genre, a lot of times your books start to get a little bit repetitive
Well,
because
and that is writing to market
Mhm.
and formula writing. And
Mhm.
that's something I don't
Yeah.
do.
I don't either.
Kudos to those that do that, but it's not my style. And I like to, like I said, challenge myself and take the reader on a journey they weren't expecting. You
Mhm.
know, my favorite genre is historical. And I write in the 1920s, and they're based on, I have 5 books in that series, and they're based on family events back in that time, my grandmother. But I've done 5 books in that series. I can't keep doing that. It maybe I could, but I got like, I want to do something different, And I didn't know how it was going to go over if I went to contemporary.
Mhm.
And I have 2 contemporary books. The other one is Silver's Redemption, and it's about a 56-year-old woman. So I jumped in the age bracket,
Mhm.
targeting older women because I got that idea from some women that bought my books in an older age group, and they said, "Why
Mhm.
don't you write about our age group?" And so I did. Boom, instant hit.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody bought it, and that follow me. And so it makes it exciting for an author to know that they can get out of their comfort zone and
Mhm.
still attract those readers, I
That
think.
Mhm. Go ahead,
that
Mike.
for that I was at a book event actually with Nancy Hudgens, that writes under Dana Wayne. I think it was the Fort Worth Book Fest, and there was a girl who had a booth next to me, and she had like 8 books. I was talking to her, and she said, the author said, "Well, how long you been writing?" She said, "Oh, I did all these in the last year, and a half."
Okay,
And
I'm a pantser. I'm not even that good.
and
Shoo.
so I told Nancy that, and she said, "Oh, she writes formulaic. She
Yeah,
writes following a formula."
yeah,
And and uh, and once I got, of course, at the time, I'm still learning writing and things like that. I didn't know near as much as I do now, and which is still not as much as most people that write do. But I come to understand that it follows a pattern that repeats itself,
Mhm.
and therefore it makes it easier to write. So um, I guess jumping out of your genre would kind of shake up that formulaic writing if you had to actually create new characters. Like if you were writing science fiction and you had to write historical fiction,
right.
that's you're going to have to do something different. I think that I mean, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I do think that if you did write out of your genre, um, I don't know how easy it would be to follow the same formulaic writing because you're having to create brand new characters and
Mhm.
in a brand new genre. So anyway, that's just my two
Yeah,
cents worth.
I mean,
you're absolutely.
my thing is that, I like to read a book where I don't know the ending. I hate being able to guess the ending partway through the book or where this is going. And a lot
Yeah.
of times I will throw in a twist at the very end where the writer's like, "Whoa, getting whiplash. Where did that come from?" You know, and when I can surprise a reader, to
Mhm.
me that's gold. If I can make them laugh and cry in the same book, then I've achieved my goal. And so
You
for
know,
me, I'm like, I'm not in the box. I'm not out of the box. I have thrown away the box and burned it. You know?
exactly, exactly. My first book was an unlikely arrangement, and it was about my grandmother and her arranged marriage back in the 1920s. Well, I thought that was going to be a standalone book. I wrote it, but I left it as a cliffhanger because I was told that that's the way to do it back then. This was back in 2011, and somebody told me, make it a cliffhanger. I actually, and I bowl on Tuesdays with the Ladies League, and it's a instant book signing when I come out with a new book. Everybody buys it at the bowling alley.
Mhm.
And I actually had somebody come up and punch me in the arm and say, "You left me hanging." And when's the next book coming out? And I thought to myself, uh-oh, I've
Whoops.
got to write another one. And it ended up being a 5-book series, and I'm not sure I'm done yet, with that series. But um, then when I changed genres to the contemporary mystery more, it had romance in it and mystery. The girls at the bowling alley they all bought that book, and they never missed a beat about wondering why I changed from historical to contemporary.
Mhm.
They just liked my style of writing and uh, turning the pages because they weren't sure what was going to happen next.
Mhm.
So I think if you're going to change genres, you better research that genre and make sure that you're doing it correctly, because there is a different style for historical and there's a different style for contemporary. Just like, and I'm writing, I guess I'm going to call it fantasy, and it's got time travel in it
Mhm.
too. I'm halfway through it, and it's an evil mermaid. So this
No
time
Ariel in your book.
this time it's really out of my comfort
Mhm.
zone, you know. So I tell you what, I had to do a lot of research on mermaids,
Mhm.
you know, and
But we've got just a few minutes left. Is there
okay,
anything you would like to add?
me or
Yep,
Mike.
you.
Uh, oh man, just write and get it down on paper. I am my first book. I was a pantser, but now I'm a loose uh, outliner. It's not a detailed outline. It's very loose because I feel like I can get to the end better.
Mhm.
So either way, which works for you, don't let people tell you this is the right way to do it. You know, I mean, yeah, you can do it really wrong, but try to use your own common sense when it comes to that. You're a reader, so watch what other people are reading. The best thing to do is get into a writer's group
Mhm.
and learn that way. Join a critique group. I know Mike's in one, I'm in one. Are you in one, CJ?
No, I tend to steer clear of those. I
You,
was the nay on that
and
one.
that's that's
But that's, it's
yeah,
everybody's journey, how you choose
everybody's
to do it.
journey. It's your journey, it's your voice.
Mhm.
Be true to it.
Mhm.
And that's how I proceed as a writer. It's what I want to write and what I want to read. So,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, write the
personal.
book that you wanna read, basically.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
keep it in your voice.
Mhm.
Don't let people try to change you. You know, you can still write well if and keep it in your own voice. Yes, there's learning to do, but stay true to your own voice. I think that's the most. And
Right.
if you're multi-genre, good for you. If you're not, if you stay in your lane, then good for you.
Mhm.
But do it well.
Mhm. Well, anybody who wants to learn more about Miss Patty Wiseman, you can find her at pattywiseman.com. That's www.pattywiseman.com. You can find her books. You can find out more about her there and see what else she's doing. In the meantime, next week on the 13th of April, Mike and I are going to be talking arcs and beta readers. Yay or nay?
So, can I make a couple of pitches before we close the broadcast?
Definitely.
So, the Northeast Texas Writers Organization is hosting a first chapter contest, which is
Hmm.
basically the first chapter of a manuscript and the synopsis. The rules and the instructions can be found at the Netwo website at www.netwo.org. The deadline for submitting an entry is April the 10th, so that deadline's fast approaching. If you have a manuscript, whether you're finished with it or you just started, so it'd be a good chance to get some feedback and maybe even win some prize money by submitting a synopsis of your story and your first chapter. The other thing is that on April the 30th at the Northeast Texas Community College, NetWo will be hosting their spring writers conference.
Hmm.
That'll be from 9 to 3:30, and CJ will be one of the speakers. And we do have an awesome lineup of speakers, and you can also go to the school, I mean the to the writers website, NetWo website at www.netwo.org, and you can see all the information there as far as signing up for it and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And finally, tomorrow night, Patty and I will both be at the uh, Longview Art Walk in the Verabank lobby. So if you like some of the if you're interested in some of the books that we talked about, come see us. We'll be in the lobby. It'll be from 5 to 8 p.m.
Awesome. So there's lots of stuff going on around you. I know I
Hmm.
have some appearances coming up, the Chautauqua Festival in Longview Public
Yeah.
Libraries in a few weeks. And then, as Mike said, I will be speaking at the NetWo Writers Conference, Spring Writers Conference. I'll be talking sci-fi and fantasy. May the odds be ever in your favor, as well as Texas Sisters Press, a small press with a big heart. So make sure to come there. And then the following weekend, yeah, we've got like a boom, boom, boom going on. Um, I'll be at the Kilgore Geekend, and I will be inside Geektopia's comic book store, and that's at 207 East Main Street in Kilgore, Texas, from 10 to, well, actually, there's 2 days, but you can find them all on my website, cjpetersonwrites.com, under the appearances page. In the meantime, stay tuned next week on the 13th of April for ARCs or beta readers, yay or nay, and make sure to check out Patty Wiseman's books at www.pattywiseman.com. Until next time, we'll see you.